Hello, welcome back to another episode of Momentum. It's a little bit later in the week, but it's actually a good thing for us. We can go through the team list for this week and make some more informed tips, which I think, especially after last week, we might need as well. Joined by Jake Marketo as always. Jakey, how are you, brother?
Mate, I need all the help I can get with tipping at the moment. I've been atrocious. So, yeah, it'll be good to we actually know the teams this week. We're not going off a whim. There's been a lot of big news since last Friday as well, so we'll dive into that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it was a bad week for everyone on the tips just quietly with the games and, obviously the Cowboys beating the Storm and a bunch of the results there. So we'll get into all of that, but I just want to run through a bit of news. We'll quickly get through it because I know that we've got a little bit less time. But Tuivasa-Sheck, Wakefield Trinity, he's obviously gone off to the Super League for next year. I had a feeling that he probably should have stayed in the NRL, obviously linked to a Sydney club this time last week when we were recording, but he's made a decision to go to to the Super League. What are your thoughts?
Caught me by surprise. I don't doubt that there's a great opportunity there for him. He's probably getting a little bit more money, I suppose, over there as well. And, mate, a lot of the rugby league players, when they do get the opportunity to go over there, part of it's to be able to travel with their family and all that sort of stuff as well. So while you can play professional sport, which is, a gift in itself, if you can be able to travel beautiful parts of Europe and, finish your career off over in England and be able to do that, he's done everything that you can ask of a rugby league player individually and in the team aspect in the NRL. So good luck to him, and I hope he enjoys his 2 years, and I'll be watching from Australia.
Yeah, 100%. I wish him all the best, obviously, going over there to Wakefield. He'll be heading over there with Jazz Savanga, former teammate as well, who's currently over there playing a bit of hooker. So not a bad team over there. Had a little bit of a look when the signing was announced. But he'll be man of steel over there for sure.
He has to be.
Yeah.
He has to be in the running every single year that he's there, 100%.
Yeah. All right, let's move to Willie Peters, obviously announced as the coach of PNG. Got to watch him on 100% footy the other night, was sitting in the audience and they were interviewing him just about the role and obviously what was to come. He, funnily enough, announced 3 guys that he wants to get over to PNG. One was Nathan Cleary, one was Isaiah Yeo, and one was Cameron Munster. I'll tell you what, the Dolphins haven't been as successful to get those 3 guys over. I doubt Perth Bears will be getting any guys like that over. I'll tell you what, he'd be counting his lucky stars hoping that he can pull it off, but I'm not too sure. What are your thoughts?
Well, mate, the tax-free incentive, may draw 1 or 2. Not sure if it'll be those guys, but there is the connection with Braithen Naster, Cameron Munster and Willie Peters. So you never know, who the Storm have coming through, and it may line up perfectly for a Munster being the king of PNG for 2 or 3 years over there. But I congratulate Willie Peters, mate. He's done everything you can ask to put himself into that position. He's also a great person, and I think he'll suit the PNG sort of lifestyle coaching aspect perfectly to a T. He does have a way of getting his point across, but is very placid. And I think the PNG team, depending on who they can get up there, are in good hands.
Yeah, 100%. And you talk about the connection between Willie Peters, Braith, and Cam Munster. Willie Peters was obviously in the Australian squad as well, so he'd have connections to Nathan Cleary. He'd have connections to Isaiah Yeo, and has left a pretty positive, touch on those guys as well, being over in the Australian squad. So it'll be interesting to see who he can get. I'm not too sure. I feel like Cleary and Yeo will probably stay in Penrith. I think that they'll want to win as many comps as they can. That's the vibe that I sort of get. Munster, he already said no to Perth. I'm not too sure if he is going to go over to PNG. Maybe the tax-free incentive is the go, and the relationship there between himself and Willie Peters, and obviously with Braith as the manager. I'm just not too sure that that's something that's going to be taken over the line, but we'll have to wait and see.
Mate, 100%. If I was a player playing in the NRL and, looking at this, the tax-free incentives there, but also the opportunity to show the NRL how proud you are to be a part of it. I think we lose the aspect at times, and I know, myself with watching the NRL, sometimes I have, some views that I don't, really agree with what goes on in the NRL universe. But I think it's an absolute massive opportunity for us to grow our game. I think over in PNG, you will be treated like a god. I've been there a couple of times playing with the Townsville Blackhawks. They love their rugby league. I think the setup over there will be 10 out of 10. And as I said before, Willie Peters as your coach, I think he'll set a really good standard and make it really comfortable, not only for the players, but the families that do end up signing and going there. And I just see it as a massive opportunity for anyone who, wants to play consistent NRL and can get over there for 2 or 3 years and have a bit of a life-changing experience and put themselves into that pipeline.
Yeah, 100%. And that was the key thing he sort of said on 100% footy as well. He said, we want players that want to play for PNG. And that was kind of the key things that sort of came out of it. So it'll be interesting to see who he can grab. I think it'd be cool to get a couple of the guys that are playing for PNG internationally as well, just to get a couple of those guys over there. Some really talented players in your Edwin Apapes, who obviously I think won the Man of the Series 2 years ago, or the last World Cup we had actually got Man in the Series. So there's a couple of really good PNG players, Judy Rimbu, these sort of guys. So keen to see if they can draw a couple of those guys over, and even a couple of them that have maybe gone to the Super League and looked for an opportunity to kill it over there and come back to the NRL. Those guys I think will definitely be some of the first guys you see signed. So that'll be really cool. I guess the biggest news of the week, mate, is that Seibold has been sacked from Manly. And Kieran Foran is to take over for the remainder of the season. What are your immediate thoughts on Seibold being sacked this early in the season?
I think it's a purely business decision by Manly, and I actually back it. That shows me that they want to compete and be in finals this year, which I think they do have the capability to scrape in depending on injuries. I think Seibold, from what I've heard, and again, mate, this is all rumour mills, but you do, come across and you can see that the same narrative actually gets spoken around, is that he had lost the playing group and maybe it had something to do also with DCE leaving. Not sure, again, pure just word of mouth sort of thing, but like a couple of things do add up when you put like the little 1% pieces together. I wish him all the best. Obviously, the NRL coaching realm is a different beast, and it's a job that you can be loving at one time of your career, then you're out on your bum trying to rebuild yourself back in. It has happened to him a couple of times now, so it'll be interesting to see if he does get a start in the NRL again, or even an assistant coaching role. We may see him go to the Super League. Obviously, Willie Peters coming over here opens up a spot over there. He may have a change of scenery if he wishes to challenge himself and take up a different opportunity. On to Kieran Foran. Remember, we were speaking about it, and I said I wouldn't be surprised if he did. I just don't see any, they're pushing for Matt Ballin, which would be a great buy for him, but I don't see Matt Ballin or the NRL allowing that to happen, considering the Broncos have also just had Ben Teo put his resignation in. I think it's a massive opportunity for Foran. Jimmy Dimmick's there as well, so they have some guidance with him. He's been an assistant coach for a while, and they've got a roster there, as I said before, to play finals footy. Kieran Foran's a legend of the club, and I wish him all the best for the season.
Well, just on Seibold first, like you were talking about losing the playing grip and whatnot, and this might be a little bit hypercritical on my end, but I feel like he lost the playing grip at the back end of last year. And,
Correct.
I just don't understand when you're letting him go so early in the season. Like, why give him the full preseason? Like, if you wanted to get someone else in, why give him the full preseason to work with the squad and get his idea of what he wants to see this year through, only to sack him in round 4? Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Do you sort of agree?
I think Kieran Foran was strategically placed there. If you look at the business side of things, Jason King is now he's the CEO of Manly. They've obviously played a lot of footy together, him and Foran, and he probably trusts Foran. He is a Manly great, Kieran. He's just retired. He has that connection with the NRL playing group across all clubs, as being a player that just stopped playing last year. I've got no doubt in my mind, looking at it, it was a strategic placement to put Kieran Foran in there to maybe see if this would happen. Now, the conversation doesn't happen if Manly come out and win the first 2, 3, 4 games. You know what I mean? So there's all these little things that, intricacies within the Manly business meetings that probably took place, and they just saw it as an opportunity to cut the head off the snake and give Kieran a go and see if they can get themselves going for the rest of the season.
Yeah, well, look, it will be interesting to see what they do, I guess, after Foran, if Foran does stay in that role or if they move a couple of things around and bring someone else in. I know on 100% footy as well, they were very keen to see Matt Ballin in there with Foz moving back into that attacking coaching role. Mate, a guy that I'd love to see over there is Ben Teo. I think that Ben Teo would do a really good job with that squad and just get some really, really good, defensive habits. And with what he's already done with the Brisbane Broncos, even though he's been let go there, like, defensively, they've become a little bit of a powerhouse as well. And yeah, particularly in that game against Melbourne, they were very, very good. So for me, I think that Ben Teo would be an awesome shout for 2027. And I think that they could really just fire home a couple of the ideals that, former Manly sides have had in regards to their defensive habits and just becoming a real tough powerhouse again. What are your thoughts? Other than Matt Ballin, is there anyone else that sort of comes to mind? I would have said Willie Peters personally before he signed with PNG, but what are your thoughts?
Mate, it depends. There's Brad Arthur's also looking for a job in the NRL, I've heard, but he's also come out and stated he's very happy where he is. Sam Burgess is also on the market, I'd imagine, too, at some stage to come back to the NRL. But I think Manly are going through a bit of a transition, and I think Kieran Foran for the rest of the year will suit him perfectly. And as I said, you got your Teos, who's on the market for possibly next year, and your Matt Ballins. Matt Ballins probably the favourite due to being obviously a Manly great, won comps there. But time will tell, and we'll see the coaching merry-go-round begin to happen probably towards the end of the year.
Mick Ennis's name has been thrown around. I know he used to be an assistant there, and he is contracted to the Dragons. Is Mick Ennis a guy that you'd love to have in that building as a head coach? Do you think he's ready to take on those reins?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. It just depends if he likes to do it. He's also got a pretty good job at Fox Sports, so he'd probably have to leave that, and I'd imagine he'd have to leave that, and being an NRL coach is a full-time thing, obviously. A lot of pressure comes with it. So it just depends if he wants to throw himself into that arena or if he thinks he needs to learn in an assistant coaching role for the next 2-3 years. There's also, while we're talking about it, a lot of pressure on Flanagan at the moment. They're 0-4 in the Dragons. They've got some great assistant coaches off the top of my head. Obviously, Michael Ennis and Dean Young there in the waiting. So you never know what can transpire and happen.
Yeah, well, look, we'll have to wait and see with the Manly Seagulls. I think walking into that building is going to be very interesting. Obviously, Mick Ennis and Tom Trbojevic had a meeting the other day in a Brighton cafe. So I'm not too sure if that was Mick Ennis sussing out the job or if it was potentially Tom Trbojevic sussing out his options because I think he comes off contract soon. So be very interesting to see what happens there. I think walking into that role would be a bit of a basket case with I guess how many players are a little bit offside. You've seen Ruben Garrick obviously walk out the door to the Sydney Roosters as well, DCE. Gerbo, there's uncertainty about his future, so be very interesting to see who they grab in and if they can instill that belief back in the playing group as well. Jermaine Isaako obviously signed with the Melbourne Storm too. Funny enough, I was sitting in with the 2GB continuous call team over the weekend on Sunday when we were watching the Raiders and the Sharks, and they didn't know about this news, and I got a little tip on my phone from like a Bulldogs chat that's usually quite good. I thought, you know what, stuff it. I'm going to tell them and see if it comes off. So I was talking to Cooper Johns, and I was like, hey, Coops, just got this little buzz here that Jermaine Isaako signed with the Melbourne Storm. And he goes, nah, I don't think so. He's going to retire up there at the Dolphins. Like, I don't know if that's going to be the case. And I said, oh, yeah, okay, I don't know. I've just got this little tip here. And he was like, look, we can't say anything until it gets confirmed anyway. He goes off and calls Harry Grant. Harry doesn't answer. And when Harry Grant calls him back and they go back live on air, their little assistant walks in with the media release saying Jermaine Isaako has signed with the Melbourne Storm. So it worked out well for me. They gave me a little plug on there, which was nice as well. But Isaako to Storm, I like it. I think when you're looking at, the guys that are leaving, Nick Meaney and Will Warbrick as well, both of those guys are walking out the door. They need some replacements in their back line, and Isako's got a ton of experience. He's also a good goal kicker as well, which they sort of need in that building at the moment, losing Pappy and losing Nick Meaney going into next year. And just the try-scoring ability. He's been the top point scorer in the competition the last couple of years as well. So what are your thoughts on Jermaine Isaako to the Melbourne Storm?
Mate, great buy. And they actually did come out the Storm and say they're looking for a outside back who can kick goals. So they've got their man down there for 2 years. Mate, he could put himself straight into contention for, Dane Liam Winger of the Year and become an even better player than what he already is. He is a try-scoring freak and point-scoring freak, so I've got no doubt plenty of opportunities will be coming his way down at the Storm.
I also compared it, I guess, a little bit to Braden Burns going to the Cowboys, and I know it's two different, dressing rooms and two different clubs, but just in regards to sometimes players just need a little bit of a change of scenery and being around a specific playing group and a specific coaching staff, and they just get unlocked. Like, I think Braden Burns at South Sydney was obviously stuck in reserve grade and couldn't get an opportunity. He goes to the Cowboys and he's their starting winger and he scored 2 tries, one of them being the game winner on the weekend, and has just been playing lights out. So Maybe it could be the same for Jermaine Isaako, albeit Jermaine Isaako is already playing good footy, and as I said, he's been the top point scorer in the competition for the last couple of years. But I definitely think that he could go to another level at Melbourne. I think you're 100% right. Let's touch on the footy, mate. We've had a big weekend of footy. Let's get stuck straight into the reviews. We'll kick off with the Roosters getting a 33-16 win over the Manly Seagulls. The Roosters completing at 96%. I tell you what, I wasn't going to be thinking that was going to be the case for the Roosters at all after the last couple of weeks and how undisciplined they've been. What were your thoughts on the Roosters' performance?
Well, mate, any team's going to win with 96% of possession. Manly competed hard. They just, mate, as you said, the Roosters were just too good. I think they're starting to get it a little bit more. I think Reece Robson being back in the team is a great thing for him. He's just that middle glue man for him. Not to take anything away from whoever was playing there. Obviously, Connor Watson comes on in that hooking role as well, but Reece Robson's just a little bit of a different beast at the number 9, and it's good to see the Roosters starting to build some momentum.
Well, I think the big thing for me was that DCE took control. You saw Sam Walker take a little bit more of a conservative 6 role, and he was coming in and injecting himself in the right moments for the most part. Still made 1 or 2 plays that he probably could have held himself back on a little bit, but I thought that Sam Walker was a lot more calculated in this one, but this was definitely DCE's team. The ball went to him most times on their play 4s and even on last tackle as well, and he was mainly the guy putting in the kicks. Had some really nice touches, obviously a try assist in there as well for DCE. But yeah, I thought that he was definitely the main playmaker in this one, and he had an absolute blinder, didn't he?
He did, mate. He played really well, and I think it was perfect timing for him. Getting back to his old team. Obviously, he's been at Manly for, a decade and a half, captain of the place. He's a life member. But going to the Roosters and coming back and putting on a great show, I'm happy for him, and I'm happy that the Roosters, as I said before, again, are building some momentum. And it'll be interesting to see if Cherry Evans does take that little bit more of a lead in the halves role and allowing himself to be injected a little bit more. And Sam Walker can take the opportunity to sort of just watch what he does and take his opportunities when they come his way.
100%. I actually like this dynamic for the Roosters, not because they completed at 96%, but because everything was a lot more calculated. Like, they weren't trying to score on every single play. They were really calculated in what they were doing. They were earning field position. Tedesco, I thought, played outstanding as well. 25 runs for 229 run meters, but didn't over-inject himself too. Like, you look at that stat line and you think, he's getting plenty of touches of the football, but it was mainly when DCE wanted him to out the back of shape. So he was great. Nafa'u White was outstanding again, nearly 200 meters for him in the middle in 50 minutes. He's just been lights out over the last couple of weeks, Nafa'u White. And a side that has struggled a little bit for completions, he's definitely been their standout, hasn't he?
He has been. And, mate, he as he should. He's put his hand up. He's taken that forward leading role now, which is great. Lindsay Collins is obviously there and probably showing him a couple little things along the way. They do have a really strong forward pack, so, it's good for him to build that confidence with himself. But I just, Manly come out and scored off the first set, the third tackle of the game. And I thought to myself, there could be a long night here for the Roosters, and they just ended up sort of, what they have done, Manly, if you've watched the first couple of rounds, they start really well. But then it's like they hit a lull, get themselves in a bit of a ditch, then obviously momentum comes into play, and they just sort of fall off the wagon a little bit. And the Roosters obviously completing at 96% had something to do with it also. That's a massive stat. But I don't see how Manly can continue to just come out for the first 10 or 15 and then sort of drop off. Maybe Kieran Foran's picked up on that and they can make some changes this week, and the players might feel a little bit fresher mentally, not having, probably Seibold's tactics. So it'll be interesting to see how Manly can bounce back and hopefully get themselves into some momentum in the competition.
Well, it's funny you say that because Manly didn't not play well. I thought Manly had some really nice moments, but it was more so how dominant the Roosters were through the middle. Like, they just did not allow Manly to get any form of field position. And it took Manly to make a break down the right edge defence of the Roosters. Like, pretty much all those breakaway tries were down that side for them to score points. And obviously, they had a try denied to Brandon Wakeham as well, who nearly barged his way over after a pretty wonky set there from Manly. But, yeah, I really like what the Roosters have done. It's probably the only concern for me. is that right edge defence. Rob Toya, 7 missed tackles, and Siwa Wong, 5 missed tackles. You definitely want to clean that up a little bit. As I said, all those breakaway tries were down that edge. So definitely something that the Roosters need to clean up quick smart, because I think other sides that will have a fast start, and even like your Penrith, who are very clinical and can execute well, they'll be going down that edge all day and taking points.
The Storms and the Panthers, if they come up against the Roosters, they'll be definitely testing out that edge. I think a lot of video and some extras will be done this week for those two players, because you can't be having that at an NRL level.
Yep. Let's go to the next one, which is the Warriors and the Tigers. Mate, what a game of footy for the West Tigers. Like, in regards to their confidence, beating a Warriors side that's been pretty on the ball the last couple of weeks, definitely fills you with a ton of confidence, doesn't it?
It does. And I thought the game was going to be tight, but I tipped the Warriors just due to the run they've had, and they obviously playing at home. But I tell you what, the Tigers are the real deal. They are turning up and having a massive crack, and scoring 32 points over there is massive, considering how well the Warriors have started this year's competition.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I really enjoyed, obviously, the young wingers that they had as well, in particular Tino Tavana there, who they gave an opportunity to debut. I thought that he was great. Made a couple of errors, but I just really loved the confidence. Like, he was going up against RTS in this game, and he gave RTS a lot of nightmares. Just last tackle, every last tackle, chasing kicks. They targeted RTS a little bit, and he was right up there with RTS. He forced, I think, 1 or 2 errors from Roger. Even though he obviously came up with some errors himself, he was just giving Roger no room and no time to get up for that football. So I love the confidence. I love the fact that he was just keen to run the ball back with 110% vigour as well. Every time he got it on those play 1 and 2 carries. He was good. The back 5 I thought were outstanding for the Tigers. What are your thoughts?
They were. Yeah, no, they were, mate. They really got him out of trouble a couple of times. I think Skelton have a couple of errors early in the game.
Skelton didn't play. Skelton was ruled out for that Tino Tavana. Luke Laulili was on the other wing. Yeah, rightio. So they've come out, and obviously their back 5 have set the platform for him coming out of yardage, and that just allowed the momentum to build for him. And Adam Doueihi ran for 210 metres. Yeah, that's massive. So, that's what the West Tigers are capable of doing when their back 5 are firing. It seems to be that the rest of the team sort of follows off the back of it. Mate, he gave Luke Metcalf some absolute nightmares as well, just going down that edge. He was outstanding, Adam Doueihi, and for a guy that had hamstring tightness coming into this game, you couldn't tell. He was breaking the line, had some really nice runs, obviously set up a couple of opportunities, try-scoring wise as well, but he just went to another level, Adam Doueihi, and if you can get this sort of output from him, you bring back Jerome Luai into this side, this is 100% a top 8 roster, in my opinion, and what really gets me excited for the Tigers is their forward pack. Really enjoyed the work of their forwards. While this wasn't a meterage game, and not many of them got over 100 metres, their physicality and just they went with the Warriors on everything. I was really impressed. Our mate Sione Fine was good again off the bench. I thought that Alex Twall, what a performance from Alex Twall. 70 minutes in this game. The forward pack for the Tigers were really, really good in this one, weren't they?
Mate, the luxury of having Thanu, Hunt and Seyfarth coming off your bench, they're all big bodies, so you're not really losing that size, and they're all capable if they need to play big minutes. So their engines are built, to give you those really solid stints or those sort of longer ones if you need. I thought Jock Madden did extremely well. Now, Benji Marshall spoke about after the game that his grandfather had passed away during the week, and he turned up in a team where he's got an opportunity and he delivered for the team and the club. And he actually said that his grandfather would have wanted him to play. So I want to send out my thoughts and prayers with Jock Madden and his family with that experience that he went through during the week, but coming out and delivering in a rugby league game. You could hear Benji Marshall was very thankful for that, but it's also great to see someone dedicate a game like that to a passing family member. So well done to Jock Madden, mate.
Yeah, he was good. He did all the kicking in this one, obviously, with Adam Doueihi not kicking the football too much with the hamstring. But, I thought he was really good with the kicking game. And when the Tigers were trapped in their own end a little bit, he was able to get them out really, really well. So Madden was really good. Dream Buller was outstanding at the back as well. For the Warriors, Roger was good. As I said, I think that Tino Tavana did give him a little bit of trouble just with those high kicks. But other than that, like as we've said on the podcast before, it's impossible for Roger to have a bad game. He was still good with his yardage carries, got through 168 run meters from 16 runs. Like, Roger was still great. I tell you what, Luke Metcalf, obviously it's going to take time for that halves pairing to gel, and he's coming back in a different role to what he thought he was going to be in the preseason too, defending on the opposite edge. But geez, it was a tough little return, but as to be expected from someone coming back from an ACL.
And that's why I've said the last couple of weeks, I think maybe the coach, Webster's got it maybe wrong. I would have been blooding him back into the team. That's just my opinion, due to the fact how well the Warriors were going. Metcalf's first major injury, you tend to just want to ease him back into the NRL, especially against a team like the Tigers that are looking to prove practically everybody wrong in the NRL world, by turning up and getting themselves back into the finals, So I feel sorry for Metcalf. I think he maybe got put back in a little bit too early in regards to playing 80 minutes. I think, as I said before, should have been blooding him back into the game, but I think it'll be a good learning curve for him. And one thing that I thought, my man, Halasima, he was off. I think maybe the Tigers did a little bit of homework on him during the week. He might have been head on the plate because it appeared that he wasn't playing his usual 12 out of 10 games. A lot of energy, but he didn't really seem to have that this week, or last week, sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I think he was definitely a little bit off. Didn't take too many carries in this one. Going up against Kai Pearce-Paul, who was very, very tough. I thought that it was a little bit of a tough matchup for him. Mate, our mate Jackson Ford still played 68 minutes with Mitch Barnett in the side. Mitch Barnett's actually out this week. He's broken his forearm, so he's going to be out for a little while, which is unfortunate coming back from an ACL himself only last week. But Jackson Ford, I still thought was quite good. Still got through plenty of work in those 68 minutes. You'd expect him to get some more minutes with Mitch Barnett out of the team, but still got through 45 tackles. I thought that he was definitely, for me at least, one of the guys I was quite impressed with. In a game where, as we said, meters weren't probably something that was going to become easy by any team, I still thought his physicality was good in this one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it looks, 100%. And he'll just keep trugging along. I don't think, I think it'll probably add a couple more minutes to his game. He may end up just continually to pushing at 80, but it seems like Ford's got the capabilities to just turn up and play in any sort of situation, whether it's raining, it's dry, it's sunny, it's nighttime. He just looks like he just turns up, adapts to what's put in front of him, and he's in a really good groove at the moment.
I think he'll be in the Origin squad. I can't see him not being in that squad, at least just to blood him in. I think that he'll definitely be in and around that conversation. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Broncos, Dolphins, 26-12, the final scoreline. The Broncos played well, but the Dolphins gave them a run for their money. The Dolphins were outstanding in this one, I thought.
Yeah, they were. It was a really good game. Battle of Brisbane. Katoni Staggs, mate, he started back at the second half of the Storm game. He's taken that form into this week. I thought he was almost untouchable out there at times. His ball carrying is unbelievable. A lot of strength. I think it's starting to gel a little bit for the Broncos. You can see the way that they're moving the ball. Adam Reynolds was at his brilliant best. A nice little grubber kicking behind to score that try. Alfie Langer Brisbane, they're starting to, I think, really, really hit the gas. Dolphins were thereabouts. They just couldn't go with them.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that the Broncos were outstanding, particularly without Payne Haas. I think that was obviously a massive loss going into this one. Their middles really stood up and they evened out those minutes, and I think it was a little bit of a great thing for them as well. Particularly you had to play Shibasaki throughout this one. They lost the middle, I guess, as well, having to play Shibasaki. But yeah, I thought they were really, really good. Willis and Jensen were really good. You touched on Renault. He's definitely a guy that I want to touch on because he had a ton of criticism coming into this game. There was a lot of chat coming into this one that he couldn't gel with, Reece Walsh, and that was going to be the main watch. And some people were even calling for Renault to be dropped, which I think is outrageous. But yeah, Renault was outstanding. Really good running game in this one as well. I thought he really took the line on as well, particularly coming back from a little bit of a rib tightness or injury. I thought that he was great, Renault, and his kicking game, I thought, was clinical. Couple of forced dropouts. Just really came in and had an impact for this team.
Who said that he should have been dropped?
Oh, there was a couple of potties coming out and saying that because Ben Hunt gels better with Reece Walsh, that they reckon that Ben Hunt should get the crack there at 7. Which
Mate,
I don't.
No disrespect to anyone, but like, mate, you don't even think about dropping blokes like Adam Reynolds, like 300 gamer captain of your club. Don't worry about gelling. Everyone seems to forget it's round 4 of the season. They're playing a new style of footy. They had some, a lot of things happened in the past fortnight at the Broncos club. They were getting hammered in the media. Madge was getting hammered in the media. And all they've done is gone out and beat Melbourne and then gone out and beat the Dolphins in the Battle of Brisbane. So I understand the club brings a lot of attention, so do the playing groups because they're full of superstars. But we need to be serious with what's happening. Adam Reynolds will and does bring the best out of Reece Walsh, in my opinion, as does Ben Hunt with other players within the team. The thing is also Reece Walsh looks like he's starting to move a little bit differently at the back of shape. I've been watching him really closely. He's starting to play with a little bit more tempo. He was firing at the start of the year, which maybe bring a couple of uncharacteristic errors back into his game. His kicking game, though, I love when he gets his hands on the ball and he's tending to pot those sort of, midfield bombs and hitting him on the mark every single time. I think that's really good to inject himself into the game. But yeah, that sort of criticism of, the players like Adam Reynolds, I think it just needs to calm down a little bit.
I tell you what, we talk about Reece Walsh's boot. I think it was in this game where he tried to kick a 40-20 or something and it went dead and he kicked it from the 30. So he's definitely got a lot of power in that boot, and the fact that he can just whack a 40-20 at any stage in the game. You've then got to worry about Adam Reynolds as well, who's also a 40-20 architect.
Yes.
That is definitely a scary thought for any opposition. So Reece Walsh, very good, as you said, with his carries. I'll tell you what, this is my player of the match for this one. And it's not going to be, I think, who you think. But particularly going up against Herbie Farnworth, I thought he won the battle. Tony Staggs, for me, was outstanding. Every time that they put a high kick up for Herbie, Tony Staggs was always there to shut it down. Also with the physicality as well. 200 metres against Herbie, who is a really solid defender. 7 tackle busts, 15 tackles without a miss. Tony Staggs, for me, was outstanding in this one.
Mate, I can't speak highly enough of him. I think Tony Staggs, right? I think he's one of those guys that he's starting to learn to take everything personal. I've noticed when Tony Staggs, when they play in the big games, it's like he sets himself straight there. Where other games where they probably come up against teams that probably aren't as attractive to his challenge, he maybe sits a little bit lower than his potential he can inflict on the game. But I also think if you watch, they're starting to actually move the ball to him more. He's starting to get a lot more ball in yardage. He's also going looking for it. So maybe he's had a bit of a pep chat where he's been spoken to and gone, mate, we actually need you on the ball and we're going to get it to you, but come in and be involved also. And as you can see, 203 metres off 17 carries. What was it? Would have been 45 metres come off that last try he scored. At NRL level, to be able to have the confidence and the skill base to go and get the ball from dummy half, see the space, use your footwork to create the opportunity to get around these sorts of players. And there's no slouches there. Hammer was chasing him down. Probably would have got him if there was another 10 metres, but that didn't happen, and fended him off, put the ball over, and this is my house. He delivered, and it's going to be exciting watching him play for the next couple of weeks.
I'll tell you what, you're talking about no slouches. In my opinion, that last 10 minutes, maybe even 5 minutes for the Dolphins, they dropped off massively. I thought that they sort of realised the result. They realised they weren't coming back in this game, and they did drop the intensity a little bit, particularly for that last try. Dean Mariner made a lot more metres than he should have. Got a quick play of the ball as well, and then Staggs obviously ran all the way upfield and scored that try in the corner. They did not. If the Dolphins were more switched on, they don't score that try. In my opinion, I feel like they did drop off a little bit. But I'll tell you what, for about 70 minutes in this game, the Dolphins were really good. They had a majority of possession. Herbie looked like he was going to have an absolute blinder. He was coming in looking for runs with a bit of a roaming license, bumping off defenders. Yep. Averillo had an absolute blinder, nearly 300 metres from centre. You've then got Isaako, who obviously signed with the Melbourne Storm we talked about, and Selwyn Cobbo both making nearly 200 metres out of yardage. They were set up for a really good game for the Dolphins. I think just a couple of errors let them down a little bit in this one.
Yeah, it was. It was the errors that let him down, mate. Mate, the outside backs for the Dolphins, they're an unbelievable back five. It's pretty formidable. I thought Selwyn Cobbo, he's starting to hit a real nice purple patch also. I think what they need to do, in my opinion, is they need to start Flegler. They need a bigger body out there. No, like Felice Kafusi's obviously a great veteran player, but Flegler brings that little bit more size and intimidation factor. And I think Kafusi can really own that, that bench role where he can come on and make an impact. He does come out of the line. He's a bit of an assassin, which is what you need in your team. But I think just at his stage of the career, of his career and Flegler's stage of his career, Flegler needs to begin to start, set the platform, and then you can interchange and bring Felice Kafusi on just to sort of level the playing field in that back end of the halves and the start of the halves, I think.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think so as well. They need that bigger body out there. They do get Dan Saifidi back, so I think Flegler's going to be on the bench anyway. I don't think that they're going to really try and change up that rotation. I think they just want an experienced vet out there to start like they're going to have in Dan Saifidi. But, yeah, look, I agree. I think they are desperate to have a guy like him back in this side. I'll tell you what, love Morgan Knowles. Love his intensity. He's a very fiery Englishman. I love it when he comes out of the line and tries to put shots on. But fuck, he's giving away a couple of penalties where, it put the Dolphins under the pump a little bit in this one.
Yeah, that'll be rectified during the week. That's one thing I know Christian Wolf doesn't like is unnecessary penalties. And I just had a look too, mate. They got Francis Molo coming off the bench. Like they have starting front rowers who can just lay a little bit of a platform. Francis Molo, in my opinion, is an out-and-out starter. He's a 10 or an 8. So they do have the luxury at the moment to sort of juggle with that forward pack and have Saifidi and Molo starting, even Flegler. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, especially with Tommy Gilbert also on the front row, who's actually playing really, really well and obviously putting himself back in my opinion, Origin contention.
Yeah, I think Gilbert's last 2 weeks have been outstanding. Really had a bit of fire under his belly last week and came out of the blocks. But I think even in this one, he was outstanding, especially against the Broncos pack. I thought he did very, very well. Katoa, I thought he was pretty good in this one. Defensively, much improved. I think that I've noticed with his interviews post-game a couple of times, even last year, he's been very hypercritical on himself in regards to his defense. I think he's obviously fixed that up a little bit and he's come out of the line, still put some shots on, but been a lot more clinical in his tackles. I just feel like over the last couple of weeks, we've sort of spoken about it already in the sense that he is coming into a bit of a new stage in his game and he's trying to add some layers to his game. I think he does need to start to implement those layers soon because it feels like last tackle with Isaako Katoa is a little bit predictable at the moment. It's going to be the high kick through the middle or it's going to be hitting Kulakefi Finafiliaki short and going for the run. I think they need to add some more layers to his last tackle opportunities.
Yeah, it appears to me by watching him, he's probably playing it a little bit too safe. I think maybe he needs to begin to get back to what he was doing more consistently, which is just backing himself. Now, not to say that he's not playing well, but when he has the ball in his hands, he has the capabilities to put people through holes, the feints that he has that no one's better than him at it, taking the line on it. As you did say before, it is a little bit predictable. So I think if he can begin to change up and mix up his kicking game, because they are just doing that plot kick, for the hammer to come through and contest large portions of the game. I'd love to see him chip and chase. I don't know if he has that skill set in his bag, but I think just because he demands that much respect, and if you watch players, they actually stop when he has the ball in his hand. So it's an opportunity for him to obviously do what he does really well, play with tempo, and maybe just put one over the top for himself and begin to be that sort of individualised threat for the team.
100%. We'll move to the next game. The Knights and the Bulldogs. I was extremely...
Who tipped the Knights?
Yeah, far out.
Geniuses, mate. Well done to Newcastle.
Yeah, they were outstanding in this game. I thought their intensity through the middle, Jacob Saifidi just looked like he went up another level. He was outstanding, wasn't he? I think you talk about origin contention, guys. Like Jacob Saifidi's been in that arena before. If he plays like this week to week, he'll be there again, won't he?
Mate, he is. And it setting the platform for a team that is under strength. Like, mate, really well done. You got your Frizzell there, who's obviously a veteran and laying the platform well. Dylan Lucas. Croker is a big surprise for me because I thought his bench role is very important in Newcastle, but they've obviously started him out there and he's holding his own, which is really good to see. I thought Solo coming off the bench really laid a good platform and obviously introduced what's his name? the guy that comes off the bench with the long hair for the Bulldogs. He's just signed with the Bears.
Curran?
Curran. He introduced Curran to the ground.
Yeah.
Great tackle through the middle, mate. You know, like those sorts of things, the players really buy into that sort of energy. And just want to give Phoenix Crossland a shout out because his nose was across his face and he still played. So, like, the boys, you know, they get really excited for people that, you know, wear the jersey with pride. And Phoenix Crossland, mate, his nose was decapitated in some of the photos I've seen after the game was played.
He'll need some Bronson Sherry work a little bit later on in his career, maybe. Just get some work done on that nose. But he was outstanding, Phoenix Crossland. I thought his defence in this one didn't take too many runs out of the 9, but I thought defensively 52 tackles with only 1 miss. Very, very good, Phoenix Crossland. Jacob Saifidi we spoke about. Matty Croker, I do want to touch on him. You spoke about him just then. Far out, he's been good. I've really loved watching him. I think that even in the games that they've lost, he's been really, really strong through the middle. Defensively, very good. He gets through big minutes. But just a bit of a stalwart for them, and he's just super reliable. He's one of those guys where he's not going to be unbelievable. He's not going to come up with massive plays, but he's just going to give you an 8 out of 10 every single week. He's turned into that reliable forward there through the middle for them, hasn't he?
It is, mate. And coaches want players they don't have to worry about. You know, he's going to get out there. He's going to make his tackles. He's going to do his 1%ers. He's going to take his hit-ups. And he does. He's got a bit of ball playing and offload ability as well. So it's the perfect example of someone who obviously trains hard, prepares himself well, is ultra consistent, and now he's at the number 13 jersey for the Newcastle Knights and really delivering on the field.
Mate, what about Silky Smithers? Sandon Smith there in the number 7. Oh, my goodness. He was outstanding, some of the attacking plays he was orchestrating.
It is. It's good to see guys take the opportunity. He wasn't too good the week before, but it looks like he's come out this week and really dedicated himself to the team, which is great. And I hope he can continue that form because it gives the coach a headache when all the other players begin to come back. And I've said from the start, I see Sandon Smith as a 7, whether he goes back to that 14 role and obviously Brown comes back in and it's him and Fletcher Sharp in the halves. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but I'm really looking forward, mate, to seeing Ponga get back on the field. Like coming back, he's going to be training super hard. He's going to be in better shape than he was before his injury, I believe, just with what he wants to achieve at Newcastle. So it's going to be exciting times for the Knights if they can continue to win and get those 2 players, as in Brown and Ponga, back on the field.
Mate, my player of the match, not because he scored 3 tries, but just his work out of yardage, super tough, which something that we didn't sort of see from him at the Roosters with his play 2 carries. But Dom Young, oh my goodness, he came out of the ground really well, 7 tackle busts, much better defensively. And the key thing that I love with Dom Young, no errors in this one for him. Really good performance from Dom, wasn't it?
100%, and that's what he can deliver. He can deliver these sorts of games, I think, week in, week out. It's just about him choosing to be as ultra consistent as he can possibly be. And as I said before, if he continues that, Newcastle are a better team with him playing with them.
100%. Speaking of errors, like the errors suck because I know how talented he is and how much potential he has. Fletcher Hunt, the fullback, Jesus, his carries out of yardage and just the confidence that he has. The errors really do suck, like the drops that he has on those high kicks. But I tell you what, like with the potential and the good things that he does, like he's got so much potential. I can't wait until he does scratch those errors out of his game and he can really fine tune a couple of things and be he's definitely a starting level first grade fullback in my opinion. I think he's got so much potential.
If he gets rid of those errors, because you can't have them obviously as a fullback, and get that consistency going, he's going to be definitely be in the 1 to 17 in some spot on the field. But he the biggest thing for him is he's such a big body and he's strong and he moves so well. So, you know, as you said there, great point. If he can get those errors out of the game and begin to build trust within the coaching staff and the players by removing those things from his game, he would pretty much get picked every week.
Yeah, 100%. With the Dogs, Jacob Saifidi tore them apart. Like, you look at the stats for the Dogs through the middle and it's not actually too bad. But, yeah, Jacob Saifidi, for me, just absolutely tore them apart. He was the dominant front rower there for the Knights, and the Bulldogs really struggled for go-forward at stages. They got rolled through the middle.
I think they got ambushed. They got taken off guard by Newcastle turning up and just delivering a solid game of rugby league against them. So, the Bulldogs will no doubt go back to the drawing board this week. There is a little bit of noise around them at the moment, the Bulldogs, and it's probably warranted because you think, with the roster that they have and the sort of pressure Newcastle are under with their two best players out, they should have gone in there and, put a bit of a game together against Newcastle. But Newcastle turned up, and this is what rugby league's about. The more effort and the harder you work, you get rewarded. So the Bulldogs will be no doubt coming out this week ready to prove some people wrong after last week's effort.
And it was a little bit of a revenge game for Newcastle as well. The Bulldogs beat them in the trial match when they had their full side 28-0. So it is a bit of a revenge game for Newcastle. They definitely got that. Mate, the last thing we'll touch on here, Critter obviously moving into 6 and Burton into the centres at stages throughout this game. I was listening to 100% Footy, obviously being in the audience, and Ciro was a guest on the panel, and he was talking about, I guess, what the plan is as well. They were almost saying that they needed to give a rest to Burton defensively because if they find that Burton just has a bit of a he gets involved heaps in defense. Like he makes plenty of tackles, so they want to give him more of a rest defensively, and they move him out to that center position just to give him that time to sort of have a bit of a rest, and then Critter can come in as well in that 5'8" role and just command a bit of the footy with that roaming license. They said that they're going to do that throughout the year. It's going to be a plan. It was a calculated thing. It wasn't really so much as to how the game was going. So I'm excited to see a little bit more of that. Just Critter getting his hands on the ball a little bit more, and Burton running some really nice lines there in the centre position. What were your thoughts on that move?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't really understand it. If that's the way they're choosing to play their rugby league, that's great. But I just don't understand why there's so much chopping and changing within this team. It's like they just don't want to settle on what they've got. It's like they've got too many weapons and they're trying to juggle things and fit it and see how it goes. And, maybe they're crazy geniuses and it ends up working for them and they win the premiership. But I'm a big believer, once you have your team, just allow them to play and build that camaraderie and that tightness and get that flow with whatever's out on the field, and they have their roles and you go out there and try and win the game. But if that's what they're choosing to do, that's how they're choosing to play. I might have my foot in my mouth, but I don't really understand what they're doing over there at the moment.
Yeah, look, I can see where you're coming from. I do think that Critter definitely needs his hands on the ball more. I think that when he does inject himself in those big moments, he generally pulls them off. I think as well with Critter, the interesting thing is moving back over to the left. As far as the stats go, it's probably been his worst defensive season since moving over from Penrith. He only missed 25 tackles last year. He's already missed 10 in the first 4 games. So that's definitely a bit of a telling stat to tell you that there's been a bit of dramas with the adjustment. To then move him defensively in that 5'8" corridor, it is a bit of a weird thing when he is already struggling to get those habits defensively on the left edge. And obviously, Jake, you would know all about this. We've spoken about this on the podcast before, moving over from the left to the right, more so from a back row perspective, but for Critter in that centre position, which is one of the harder places to defend on the field. It is definitely a tough adjustment, but then to move him to infield as well when Burton gets tired, like that for me is the more confusing part, isn't it? What do you think?
Well, it is. It's information overload. He's probably going into the game thinking he's going to play 2 or 3 positions that game. You just want him to focus on playing his best footy and winning. That's what I mean by I don't understand what they're trying to do. Even though Critter's, out and out one of the best players in the competition, if you give too much information and you're going to tell your teammate or, you're the coach and you're telling your player, oh, mate, we're going to be moving you around a little bit, that doesn't allow them the opportunity to just fully focus in the moment on what they need to do in one position. That's what I mean before. What I was saying is that I don't understand it. It appears that it may be affecting Critter's game individually for the team.
Yeah, look, I tend to agree. We'll move on to the next one, Penrith and the Parramatta Eels. 48-20 the final scoreline. Parramatta had some nice moments. I think at the back end of both halves, they looked good and they played their best football. But I do feel like, obviously, Penrith were outstanding and they were clinical, and Parramatta just couldn't do anything because Penrith were playing outstanding. But I also feel like there is a little bit of a conflict of, having 2 halfbacks in your halves. I feel like Pezzett may be a bit more of a halfback and he's struggling to have that adjustment of sort of pulling himself back into that 5'8" role. What are your thoughts on Parramatta in this one?
Yeah, mate, Penrith had the game won by half time. Like, they come out of the blocks. They're such a well-oiled machine, mate, and they compete on everything, and you can't give them a sniff. And that's what the Eels did. They allowed them to get out to a 3-4 try lead, and they couldn't really bring themselves back into it. I thought the Parramatta Eels moved the ball well when they did find themselves in certain positions on the field. I think it's going to come down to Mitch Moses just being the head honcho of the team and just pretty much saying, mate, you just need to understand I'm the guy. Fill your role as perfectly as possible as you can and just allow me to do what I need to do. And I think when Mitch fully owns that, I think the Parramatta Eels will go way better, because it feels like same thing with what probably DC and Walker went through. They were a little bit worried about standing on each other's toes, but I think once they find their patterns and the way that they want to play, and one person just takes ownership of what's happening, I think they'll be much better for it. I want to throw something to you. I've been watching him, and he played for Australia last year after being out of the rep scene for a while. Addo Carr, do you reckon he's putting himself in Origin contention?
Oh, it's a tough one. I think possibly, yeah. There was a wing spot open with Lomax obviously going to rugby, so there's a spot open. You've just got guys like Kiraz, you've got guys like Marky Mark, you've got guys like Campbell Graham, who I think is probably a little bit ahead of him as well. Yeah, I think so. He's playing some really good footy, and if they do pick Moses at halfback, it makes a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense to bring in Addo Carr, but we will have to wait and see. I've been loving his footy. I think he's got so much more confidence in his Parramatta outfit. I feel like he's almost playing some career best form since moving from the Melbourne Storm. Like, he's killing it, Addo Carr. I think he's really good. The guy that I really like, though, from Parramatta the last couple of weeks is Bally Simonson. He's playing outstanding. Just like, he's played 2 carries, super tough coming out of his own end, and every time they go down that right-hand side, he looks like he's going to do something. So, Bailey Simonson and Addo Carr, for me, are so important and integral to Parramatta playing good footy and just getting on the front foot early in their sets.
Yeah, well, considering since Simonson was chasing the release last year, so he's come out and obviously owned that wing spot. And I've been watching, Addo Carr, because I thought it was great. He got an opportunity to represent Australia last year due to form, and he looks like he's carried it into this year. And his runs, I'm just, watching the way he's carrying the ball. He's actually fighting to find his front now instead of probably getting put on his side or his back a little bit more. When there's open space, he's backing himself. It was unfortunate that he did get the ball. He had his hand when they were attempting to get that try to get back in the game, but that didn't stop them from moving the ball to him. They obviously have a lot of trust with him finishing their tries, and he did end up, being rewarded with the try a couple of minutes after that as well. So I'm just sort of putting out there, like, he's a safe option. He has Origin and Australian experience, so the rep arena doesn't really affect him too much. He's a crowd favourite, and if he can continue this form and go up one or two more levels before the middle part of the season, I think you may see him in a sky blue jersey.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that's a great shout. I wouldn't be shocked to see him as well if Laurie Daly does want to go with a little bit more of Origin experience and go with the safe play. We will move to Penrith. I have really enjoyed the footy of Casey McLean. He's only 19 years old, but I almost feel like he's going to force his way into that. You talk about sky blue jersey and Smokies. I almost feel like he's going to force his way in on the wing there. What are your thoughts?
I could not agree more, and I'm going to harp on it, and I've said it since round 1. Daly M Centre of the Year. This bloke hasn't got a ceiling. Competing. He ran down Russell when he made that break. So that already shows he's capable of, pushing himself to get himself into those positions to help the team, not get points scored against them. They were ahead by 30 points at that stage. You really don't, that's obviously a Penrith thing in the attitude towards the jersey and the team and winning. So he's already got that installed in, but that's an actual Origin play to get back, make those tackles, find your position back on the field. So I've got no doubt he may be in a sky blue jersey. I've got a massive rap on him. I think he's a great player, and he's only going to get better and better.
Can I make a big call for you? I got a big call. We've already made a big call saying he's going to play Origin potentially, but I think he's the next Stephen Crichton. He just gives me those vibes. The body shape, just the way that he plays. His defense has improved out of sight. The confidence, the little bit of a kicking game there. He's just the way that he moves and the way that he's playing his rugby league football at the moment. He reeks of a Stephen Crichton for me. I think he's going to be the next critter.
100%. And the thing is too, like, pardon my French, he doesn't give a fuck who he plays against. and he's 19. That's what I love. He's just got that internal confidence in his ability and his stature and his skill set to just go out and play. And I always resort back to how we faced Brighton last year as an 18-year-old young man playing against, arguably the greatest centre in the game, and just turning up and not giving a flying about who he's against. And he had a little bit. He's got a bit of swagger too. He's out there doing his thing. So as long as I just feel if he can stay in the groove that he's in and continue to learn, it does help having Nathan Cleary in your team, mate, giving you tips and all these sorts of things. So, not to take away from him individually, but I've got a massive rap on him, and I do back your claims with a potential 2.0 of Steve Caron.
Tom Jenkins tied the record for the most tries in 4 games of rugby league football with 10. He is playing good footy at the moment. Tommy Jenkins, 197 run meters, full tackle bus, playing really good footy, looking very silky. He is going to be a absolute problem this year. I just feel like he's going to go on an absolute... we talk about Dally M players of the year. He's making his claim for Dally M Winger of the Year as well, after playing Ron Massey last year, which I think is just a massive progression for him.
Mate, it's the story of the last decade. To come back from Ron Massey to do what he's doing, setting records and just owning the jersey and just, continuously turning up every week. It's actually getting better. Like, you watch him, I'm not saying that he's gone from 0 to 100, but every single week there's just someone talking about what he's doing, whether it's a competing play, scoring tries, stopping tries, his yardage, carries, all these sorts of things. It's just he's taken his opportunity, and the biggest thing, earned his opportunity to play NRL, and it looks like he's solidified himself in that Penrith team for, years to come.
It does sound like as well, look, I was talking with the continuous call team when they were off air, and they said they've been hearing whispers about Isaac Tungo. He's going to potentially be on the outer. They don't think he's going to stay. I think the initial plan was that he wanted to be close to his brother over in Parramatta, so he wanted to make the move. Yep. But yeah, I think it's going to be impossible for Tungo to make his way back into this team with how well some of these guys are playing. Even Alamotti, who didn't get too much ball because they were sending so much traffic down that left-hand side for Penrith. I thought that he was still outstanding defensively, had some real tough carries. I feel like Parramatta were sort of targeting him defensively, thinking that he was sort of out of position there when he usually plays on the wing. Still made 17 tackles, only missed 1. I thought that he was good. Nathan Cleary, I think, is the standout in this one, mate. Mr. Silky, our momentum breathies player of the round. Holy moly, what a performance.
No, he's untouchable at the moment. It's ridiculous. You didn't think he could get better. It looks like time stops when he gets the ball in the field. Then he just chooses the right option every single time. It appears maybe the kick he didn't hit the top of the padding was a fluke. But just knowing what this guy's capable of, I wouldn't be surprised if he was actually aiming for it. You know what I mean? Just what he can come up with and what he produces week in, week out. And if you've noticed, he's starting to get in the game once or twice, these banana kicks in attacking parts of the field, thinking that he's going to go short, and it just pops off his boot and ends up going out to the centre or winger. So I've got no doubt at some stage, because he's continuing to try this, they're going to come up with the chocolates and score a couple tries on it. So it's interesting to watch him play at the moment. Yeah,
100%. I think that he's playing on another level. I think that you'll probably see him. He's on the Dally M leaderboard right at the top at the moment. I think he's a Dally M player of the year. I think he'll probably be a Dally M halfback of the year as well. Playing some really good footy, Cleary at the moment. Cowboys beating the Melbourne Storm. I tell you what, the footy gods are doing us dirty with the tips, mate. I think the footy gods are against us at this point. Goes to show that I should probably stop making the same tips as you each week as well, because you're putting me on the back foot. But this week was just impossible to tip. Cowboys getting it done. Jake Clifford, outstanding. What were your thoughts on the Cowboys?
First off, I don't want you blaming me for your tips, all right? You're a lone soldier on that. Clifford, he's hit a really nice patch, hasn't he? He's competing. That try that he scored, that just shows desire and will, which is great. And I think people forget, myself too, the Cowboys are hard to beat at home. You know what I mean? And Melbourne actually were ahead in the game, and a credit to the Cowboys roster turning up. That last 25 minutes, they actually ran over the top of the Melbourne Storm, who may have looked to put the cue in the rack just a little bit. Gave the Cowboys a couple opportunities, and they took them, and Burns with some individual brilliance to seal the game in the corner. I do like what Taumalolo's doing. Have you been watching Taumalolo?
I was just about to bring him up.
Yes.
What I was going to say is Game 3 Origin last year, Billy Slater brings in Josh Papali'i.
Mm-hmm.
Game 1 2026, do you think he brings in Jason Taumalolo?
I would not be surprised, mate, because it looks like he's building very, very nicely. He's really owning that role. He's actually starting to get his hit-ups in, but he's also creating offloads and second phase play for the Cowboys. Because if you look at the Cowboys, they have a lot of speed in their 3 and 2 and 4 and 5. Big men, Murray Taulagi, can finish a try. Obviously, Burns is coming into a nice patch of form also. So it's, mate, I tell you what, if they can continue to build momentum, and they would have got so much confidence out of beating the Storm at home and coming from behind. So my hat tips to Todd Payton. I had him, I had the Cowboys coming last, at the start of the year and Payton getting sacked. But it looks like they've jumped over a hump. And again, my foot is directly in my mouth.
I will say this, and it's going to sound so stupid after they beat Melbourne. I still have them coming last. I think it was a great game for them, but I still think they've got a little bit to sort out. If Purdue can play the way that he is and Drinkwater can play the way that he is and they can play this sort of footy week to week, they will be a powerhouse. For me, though, I've still got them probably at the bottom end of the ladder. To be fair, I've probably got Manly, I guess, maybe a little bit worse off. But for me, I still think that the Cowboys could be in a little bit of Barney a little bit later on in the year, pending, obviously, consistency and form. I do want to give Clifford his flowers, though. It feels like he does have a couple of these games once or twice a year. But gee, he was outstanding. Just his running game. Nearly scored 2 tries in this one. Only scored the 1. The second one was taken off him because he was a little bit offside off the kick chase. But gee, Clifford, unbelievable performance.
Yeah, it gives him a platform to build on into next week when they play the Dragons. He can keep delivering. I've got no doubt the Cowboys are going to be a force to reckon with. He can go on a bit of a run here.
Scott Drinkwater, we sort of talked about him last week too, but just the confidence that he's playing with after having that rib injury, and being a little bit banged up and physically looking like, he just was struggling out there, to then having the performance he did last week and then coming in and having another performance like this against the Melbourne Storm. Gee, he's in a hot vein of form at the moment, and he's just playing with another level of confidence and not letting anyone sort of pull him back.
No, look, well, too, he looks like he's playing with a pillow under his jersey. You see the padding that they've got, so he's obviously still needled up, pushing through the pain. So my hat tips to him. There's one thing about Drinkwater that probably gets challenged is his little bit of his toughness, but that can't be questioned anymore. It literally can't. If you're playing with rib cartilage and the padding that he's got and getting injected with needles every week, mate, my hat tips to him. And I find that he's as you're saying, so is oozing confidence, and it looks like it's seeping into the rest of the team. Because if you've got a bloke getting needle, playing with rib cartilage, turning out and playing 10 out of 10s, you've got no choice but to go with him. So well done to Drinkwater.
Look, we'll talk about Melbourne a little bit. They did lose both of their centres in this one, so I guess that can come into it a little bit, but I thought they were a little bit off across the board. I thought that Stefano wasn't at his damaging best, only had the 9 runs for 87 metres when he's usually running 200 plus a game. I thought just across the board, a couple of errors from their halves. Farlongo, just his spacing. I feel like he's very good, like when he comes in and has those big moments, but there was a couple of times when they were spreading the ball and he wasn't even at the back of shape. He was just still standing with the marker, like he wasn't actually moving with the play. And they sort of went to go out the back, saw that he wasn't there and had to hit Joe Chan short a couple of times when they went the right side. I feel like he just found himself out of place a couple of times and a couple of really poor errors. Thought he stood up at the second half, but gee, I thought it was a pretty mixed bag from Sua Farlongo in this one.
Yeah, and I think he's learning his feet in first grade, Big game, playing the Cowboys up there in the heat. First time probably starting at fullback up there against the Cowboys. So he's learning on the run, and I think he's a bit of a highlight reel at the moment because he does have the big plays in his game. It's just about, as you're saying, doing those little 1% ones where he's not so much out of position and he can still make a difference, even if he isn't getting the ball, because he is a guy that attracts attention even when he hasn't got the ball in his hand as an attack. So I think we'll see him begin to slowly build into the season. I think he'll hit some really good error-free form at some stage towards the back end of the year for the Storm.
We've got to talk about it. Harry Grant's pass for the Will Warbrick try. That was absolutely insane. To time that well, especially with how infield he was, for it not to be an intercept is just absolute madness. Like, what about that pass, Jakey?
Yeah, it's another level of vision. It's footy IQ at its highest. That's up there with your Clearys with vision and helping your teammates out and your team get themselves in a position to win games. Like that pass. I don't think anyone knew he was going to do that except him. He got in there, how delicate the pass was, but still how fast it moved. It was the perfect pass to be able to create a try in that situation. So Harry Grant just showing his class, obviously, with that play. And I've got no doubt we'll be seeing those, not that pass, but those types of plays for him as the season continues on.
Totally, 100%. Sharks and the Raiders. Shout out to the Sharks. We both doubted them. We both had the Raiders in this one, and the Sharkies put on a great performance. Trindle, kicking game, flawless. Will Kennedy's effort areas. You could go and obviously say anyone was really the man of the match in this one. Adam Fanua-Blake went to another gear. Outstanding performance from the Sharks.
100%. You can't knock them. They turned up. I tipped the Raiders. I just want to throw out there, are the Raiders in trouble?
I think so.
I think they're in a little bit of trouble. They and I know that Ricky loves that back against the wall sort of mentality, but they are looking a little bit lost, in my opinion, at the moment.
They we sort of talked about it against the Dogs last week for the Raiders, but Ethan Strange looks so uncomfortable on the right side. I'd be moving him back to the left ASAP, even if it means Sanders has to play on his opposite side. I'd be moving Strange back to the left. I think it's just hindering their attack and their ceiling. I just love Strange on that left-hand side with Hudson Young. It makes the most sense to me. I just don't know why he'd want to go away from it. And I think as well, as good as he's been with his play two carries, Sasangi defensively at centre just looks a little bit uncomfortable. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think some changes have to be made at some stage. If you continue to lose with the team that the Raiders have, there has to be some sort of changes in the arm, because they've got too good of a team to be losing these types of games. Or 12 points is still a big loss. Like 34 points scored against you, even though you scored 22. That's a little bit of 22 points should get you a win. But leaking 34 points, it shows like a little bit of lost commitment in defense, but it also credit to the Sharks for how they turned up and attacked.
Yeah, totally, 100%. I thought for the Raiders, if there is any positives, their back three were outstanding. I thought that Kyle Weeks had another great game, set up a try, run for nearly 200 metres, and then Tamale, as always, killing it, 3 line breaks, 6 tackle busts, 175 run metres, and Xavier Savage, who I think with Xavier Coates, obviously, there's a bit of uncertainty as to if he'll be back in time for Game 1 Origin. I think that Savage will be a bit of a smoky, 192 run metres, 2 line breaks, 5 tackle busts. Their back three I thought was really good.
Yeah, no, 100%. Savage could be a smoky, no doubt. I think his size may let him down in the Origin arena. I think they'll probably go for a bigger outside backs. But I just want to throw something your way, how I may have been right and you maybe doubted me a little bit last week. If you have a look at Adam Fanua-Blake, 52 minutes, 17 carries, 220 run metres, 85 post-contact. Now, players like him, which I said last week, they do have the tendency to warm themselves into the season because of how high of a level they play at. And I think with what I said last week was he's 80 minutes away from being what we know he's capable of. And I think he laid the perfect platform for the Sharks to score those 34 points. And I think we may begin to see Adam Fanua-Blake playing his usual 400 out of 10 games moving forward for the Sharks.
I can't push back on that at all. I definitely doubted Adam Fanua-Blake a little bit. I thought it was a bit of a slow start, but as you said, he warmed his way in and he's had a great performance against the Raiders, particularly against the Raiders, who are a very strong pack. Tarpanay,
yes,
these sort of guys. I thought that he was outstanding. Blake Brayley as well. He's not going to get a lot of reps in this game. Played the 80, went really well, defended well, but just nice little movements out of the 9, giving his halves good service as well, allowed them to have a really good game. The quick play, the balls, he executed them to a T. Blake Brayley, I thought that he was good.
Yeah, he's not overplaying his hand at all, is he? He's playing like a captain, which is what he is at the moment. So I think he He's really, really been decisive and choosing the right plays at the right time. And you can, as you just said, giving him that rap. I've noticed that as well with him. He's playing real captain's knock the last couple of weeks, and I think he's a big reason why they got the chocolates against the Raiders on the weekend.
100%. Let's move on to the next game, which was the Titans and the Dragons, 22-14. Mate, it's a tough one. I thought the Dragons were definitely going to get the job done, but it's the same story that we've said the past couple weeks. Just the last 20 minutes of games falling off a little bit. What were your thoughts on this one?
Well, they were ahead 12-6 at halftime, but it was a really scrappy game of footy. It's a hard start to the year for the club. 0-4. They could potentially be 0-5 next week because the Cowboys are on a two-game winning streak. It applies a lot of pressure to the coach and to the playing group. I really do hope they can get that W and get the monkey on the back, off the back, and begin to build a little bit of momentum in the W column. But credit to the Titans, mate. They hung in there. There was some great individual brilliance. I think they're a different team with Campbell playing, which is what I've noticed the last 2-3 weeks when he's come back after injury. He just brings that calmness to him. And something I want to say about Brimson, I'm that happy they've moved him to the centres. I think I said it a couple of weeks ago. They played Cronulla and he played 6, and he just looked like his brain was frizzled down the field. There was too much going on for him. He's trying to organise all these plays. They've moved him in the centre and they're getting him the ball, early ball, and he's electric.
Yep, I agree. I think Brimson was really good for the Titans. Look, just on the Dragons, I will say this. I thought Val had a real good game. Obviously, after last week, I thought just his involvements, 185 run meters from 19 runs, had a try assist in there. I think when you want a response from last week, even though the side in itself for the Dragons for the most part wasn't the best, I thought that Val Holmes definitely had a response after last week and a couple of poor defensive reads and whatnot. What were your thoughts on Val?
Yeah, at the moment he looks like he's a little bit hot and cold. I'm a big believer, the same as what I said about Adam Fanua-Blake. He's 80 minutes away from showing us what he's fully capable of. But in my opinion, also, he's a winger, and they've got him playing in the centres and trying to have him as that marquee, getting him the ball and creating something, where I think he's just an outstanding finisher. So it'll be, it's hard to see what they're going to do. I believe they actually need to put Sloan in the team with X Factor. They need to find a position for him, whether he's coming off the bench and injecting himself for periods of the game where he can sniff a try out for him or turn momentum in some way for him. I think it's good to get Buchanan in the team and give him a sniff for first grade. I'm not sure, is he playing again this weekend, Buchanan?
I don't think so. I think Moses Sully's back.
Okay, so Moses Sully's back, which is obviously a massive win also, but I think it's going to be telling. I think it's good to have King Tonga at 6, obviously taking Flanagan's position at the moment due to injury. It'll be interesting to see what that combination looks like this week in Atkinson and King Tonga, because if they get a win, these are going to create so many more conversations around the halves pairing and what sort of happens and what is dictated moving forward, especially if they get the first win of the season at 6 and 7.
I'll say this on Val. He was obviously saying he should be on the wing. I don't think that's really been the issue, and I think you'll agree with this. My issue has been that they moved him to the other side of the field. I feel like on the left he was so good last year. He was setting up tries with Tuipolotu. They looked like they were building a really, really good combination, setting up tries there on the left, and they've moved him to the right-hand side. He looks very uncomfortable. He's had a good game on the weekend, but just defensively just has really taken some time to adjust. I feel like they've got to move him back to the left-hand side where what was working last year was, Val and Flano and obviously Tuipolotu setting up tries galore. And then even Moses Sully had one of his career best years last year on the right side, and they've moved him to the left. Like it didn't make a lot of sense. Sully's not a guy that sets up tries. Sully's a guy that scores them.
Yes.
And I feel like, that doesn't work on that edge. When you've got a guy like Tuipolotu who's a very good try scorer, you need a guy like Val who can put him in the right position. So I think that's been a bit of the headache. What I will say on the halves, I am very shocked they didn't bring Cade Reid in this week. And I know that he's a little bit smaller and he might, struggle with the physicality, but he's on the right side and Jaden Sewer's out there to protect him. I would have pulled the trigger on Cade Reid this week and moved Atkinson to 6. What are your thoughts?
Cade Reid's ready to play in his mind. great football play, great football mind as a first grader through and through, in my opinion, and will come through. But physically, he's not ready. Like that. That's my view, and I understand how much of a great player he is and how he competes and the form he had in his trial. I actually thought that, but then I'm sort of looking at it and I'm like, he's physically will be a liability in defense, in my opinion. Due to he's 77 kilos. Like I went and had a look. Like he's 77 kilos. You know, he's not tall in stature, but he does have the ability to get a first grade team around the field and ball play and do all those things. But physically, I think it may be a little bit hard for him to be in a position to play, 10, 15 games this year. I've got no doubt he may make his debut this year at some stage, but I think he needs another preseason under his belt just to build that confidence in himself and his body and the team to really take, the reins and be given the keys to be a number 7 in the NRL. That's just my opinion. It probably sounds a little bit harsh, but I'm just looking at it from a standpoint where I think he's a 200-gamer first grader. I'd hate for him to get chucked in and thrown to the Wolves early on and come out and sort of get found out in defence in a couple, areas of his game where he maybe needs a little bit more time and work in the New South Wales Cup.
I agree. But I also think with how poor Lycan King Tonga was defensively last year, and if he does continue that on into this game that coming up for the Dragons, you're gonna sort of get the same result. Like I would have rather pulled the trigger on Cade Reid, had a guy like Sewer outside him where I know Sewer's going to do some good work defensively and just backed him in right over King Tonga where I feel like it's going to be a similar result.
Well, the thing is they've got Atkinson at 7, Reid's a 7. They want Atkinson to be the 7. So, you've got to look at it too, where King Tonga is an out-and-out 6, so it makes a little bit more sense in regards to that also. Yeah,
look, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the game's a little bit further away, so we'll have to wait and see on this one for the Dragons as to whether King Tonga is the guy. Just lastly on the Dragons, as a bit of a positive, Luciano started well. I think Luciano Leilua's had a really strong start to the season. I think he is definitely going to be a guy that has a strong year for them. 200 metres in this one, very, very dangerous. Even if you play him for the first, I think he'll probably get a shortened minutes when guys like Dylan Egan come back into the team and whatnot, and they need to throw some guys in the back row. But I've been impressed with Leilua to start the year.
Yeah, he's going well. Mate, he can be a top 5 back row in the competition week in, week out if he chooses to be. It's just getting that consistency with the big fella. He's looking lean, which is only going to benefit him, coming the back end of the season because he's already got that fitness under his belt and his engine's ready to go. They're going to need something massive again from him this week because, the Cowboys' edge and middle forward pack, they're also up there, mate. They've got some big names. They've got some hardened front rowers. Lukey's in a great patch of form also. So it's going to be a big task for the Dragons to get their first W this week. But I think they can do it. It's just it's going to take an effort from the 1 to 17 to turn up at Cogra at home to get it done. Because I'll tell you now, if they don't win at Cogra, there may be a riot if they start the season 0-5 because the fans are going to be turning out to support them. And if it doesn't sort of go the way that everyone would like it to go, that's going to be there. That it could be a bit of a hard job getting out of the field.
Yeah, it probably will. You're probably right. Let's get into this week of footy. Round 5 presented by BearBet. Our friends at BearBet. Make sure if you're going to have a punt, you do it with BearBet. Round 5, Dolphins and Seagulls, Thursday at 8 p.m. In terms of team list changes, it's good we have the team list here this week. It's going to help us a lot. Kurt Donahue, a part of the 6-man bench. He returns from a hamstring injury. For the Manly Seagulls, Jason Saab obviously suspended, so young Clayton Farlalo, the fullback, he's in there for his first taste of NRL action in 2026. Ethan Bullymore has been named to play despite being a late withdrawal last week with an injury to his Achilles in the warm-up. Kieran Foran, obviously the new coach in this one. Joey Walsh not in the 17 yet. I know a lot of Manly fans have been calling for Joey Walsh, but he's not in there yet. What are your thoughts on this one? Where do you see it going?
Mate, I'm touch and go. I'm going to pick the Dolphins, but I'll tell you what, if Tommy Turbo turns up, it could be frigging anything up there in Redcliffe. I think Manly will be playing with a lot of emotion, which also puts a little bit of doubt in my mind, but I just think the Dolphins will be too strong at home.
Yeah, I agree. I do tend to agree. I'm going to go Dolphins 1-12. I'm not going to back Manly again after I did last week. That won you the tips. Rabbitohs and Bulldogs. For this one, Campbell Graham returns from a shoulder injury. That is the only change for the starting side. Moala Graham Tulfa, drops down to the six-man bench. Lockie Hubner and Liam LeBlanc are also the new faces on the bench as well for South Sydney. Sam Hughes, he is back from suspension, and Harry Hayes, concussion. They're back on deck as well. Josh Curran, he'll miss this one with that rib injury. He got tackled last week, as we said, by Basami Solo. He's actually out. And then Bronson Sherry, he's on the six-man bench, so potentially a return for him. What are your thoughts?
I'm tipping the Rabbitohs, mate. I think the week off freshened them up. They've got the firepower to do it. As I said before, I'm just the Bulldogs have created doubt in my mind with what's going on with the team at the moment. So I'm tipping the Rabbitohs to knock them off on Friday.
Alrighty, I'm going to go the Bunnies as well. Panthers and Storm. For the Panthers, Freddie Lussick starts at hooker. Mitch Kenny suspended. Jack Cogger back at 14 as well. Isaac Tungo has been listed on the six-man bench, trying to force his way back into the team. I think it will be unlikely. Nick Meaney returns after missing the Cowboys game for the Storm. He slots in the centres. Moses Leo with delayed concussion symptoms has been ruled out. Jack Howarth has been named despite hurting his hip in last week's game. Lazarus Farlepu, the new man on the bench with Tuivasa-Sheck, out obviously with the unfortunate news. He had a stroke throughout the week as well, so he was in hospital. We do wish him all the best. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this one? Where do you see it going?
I see the Panthers winning. I can't not tip them. I think they're just in too good a form at the moment, although the Storm can turn up and do anything on their day. I just think there's been a lot of changes from last week to this week. Obviously, I think, they'll get revved this week for the loss, but I think the confidence might be down on them a little bit, So I'm going to tip the Panthers to knock them off on Friday night.
I think Penrith are going to be too clinical as well. I think that the edge defense of Melbourne has been a little bit of a concern. They're changing combos again this week as well. So I do feel like it is going to be a little bit of a worry. Nick Meaney obviously moving back into the centres. I'm going to go Penrith. I think they have a big game. Even though Mitch Kenny, I think, is a big loss. We know his impact that he can have just with his service and his defence. But I feel like Freddie Lussick's in for a big year for the Penrith Panthers, whether it be in first grade or in the lower grades. I'm really high on Freddie Lussick, so I think he'll do a good job. And just on behalf of the Momentum team, we do wish Tuivasa-Sheck all the best during his recovery. I believe he was just discharged from hospital this morning, so really good news for him, but do wish him all the best. Dragons, Cowboys, some of the people calling it the Spoon Bowl, but we won't hear on the podcast, Jakey. I know that's obviously going to hurt a little bit. The Dragons, liking King Tonga, obviously in at 5'8", as we spoke about. Kyle Flanagan, obviously after a tough knockout, obviously out of this one. Moses Sully back in the centres as well. Toby Couchman returns after the round 4 due to concussion. David Farley makes his Dragons debut. This is someone I'm really high on. Had a really good game in New South Wales Cup over the last 2 weeks. He scored 2 tries against the Sharks 2 weeks ago, and then last week in New South Wales Cup moved back into the centres and set up a try and scored one as well, I believe. So very, very good. A couple of weeks in Cup has earned him a debut. Sloan drops out to the six-man bench. Tom Chester comes in for the Cowboys. Zach Labart moves to the six-man bench. What else is there? I think that's it for the Cowboys. What are your thoughts on this one?
Mate, I'm going to tip the Dragons, obviously. I can see them getting their first win at home at Cogra. Sully and Couchman back in the team are massive ins for them. I think Little will start hitting a little bit of form too. I've been watching him play. He's starting to find his feet again back in first grade. I think that the opportunity that is in front of the Dragons to get this first W at home at Cogra on a Saturday afternoon is just going to be too much for the Cowboys to handle, so I've got the Dragons.
I'm going to go the Cowboys. I like them. I think they're playing with a ton of confidence at the moment. The only question mark I have around the Cowboys at the moment is probably Ruben Cotter. We've sort of spoken about him and saying he's a little bit banged up there through the middle. But I do think guys like Tal Malolo are playing outstanding. The bench forwards are doing good work as well. So give me the Cows. I think they get the job done. Chester back as well. They've got a good back line. I think that they do get the job done there. Titans and Brisbane. This one's going to be fun. For the Broncos, Payne Haas back. He's back from that injury. The interesting thing with Payne Haas, they were sort of speaking about it on a podcast the other day. I forget where I heard it, but just his output with the AC joint injuries. I think back in 2021, he had an AC joint injury which affected him throughout the year, and his output in minutes went down a little bit. I doubt that's going to happen under Madge, though. I think Madge will just keep him out there. But Payne Haas back. You got Xavier Willison, who moves to the bench. Grant Anderson out. Unfortunately, it looks like he's got an MCL injury. He's going to be out for the next 8 to 10. So Jesse Arthurs comes into the side. Gemma Chibasaki, obviously starting at centre as the late change, obviously, throughout the game, he came into the side. And then Antonio Verhoeven, I think, is the big one to watch here in jersey 19. 19-year-old outside back, played in the schoolboy side back in the last year. I watched that game. He was outstanding. He's been named on the six-man bench. I wouldn't be shocked, just the fact that Jesse Arthurs hasn't played a lot of first grade this year. Wouldn't be shocked if there's a potential debut in the cards for young Antonio Verhoeven going up against the Titans. For the Titans, same 19-man squad, so no changes for them. What are your thoughts on this one?
I've got the Broncos 13 plus. I think they just got way too much class. The Titans, obviously, they got the win last week, but it was against a depleted Dragons team with a couple of blokes being out. And I just think the Broncos will be too strong.
Yep, give me the Broncos. Sharks and Warriors, Sunday 2 p.m. for the Sharkies. Nikora listed among the reserves. He looks set to come back with a broken nose. I imagine he comes straight back into the side. Mania Hiroti. He's been named on the interchange, struggled there a little bit. Top 17 remains unchanged from last week. For the Warriors, Mitch Barnett, he's nursing a broken thumb. I thought it was a forearm there. Thumb's a lot more easier to come back from. Dimitri Valmunga, he's been added to the interchange. He missed last week. Morgan Gannon listed amongst the reserves. He looks to return from concussion he suffered in round 3. What are your thoughts on this one, Sharks and Warriors? I think it's going to be a really good game. Warriors obviously looking for a bounce back after last week's loss.
Yeah, it's probably the hardest game to pick for the round, in my opinion. I just think the Sharks can do it. I think the Sharks can knock them off. The Warriors, I think, with Metcalf at 6, still have a little bit of growing to do to get him back to where he needs to be. And I think the Sharks will just have too much at home, and it'll take the win.
I think it's going to be a big performance from the pack of the Warriors. Give me the Warriors for the upset. I'm going to take the Wars. Knights and Raiders, your last game of the round. Actually, no, it's the second last game because it's a Monday game. Sunday, 4 p.m., the Knights and the Raiders. For the Newcastle Knights, Trey Mooney's back from suspension. Pasami Solo slides onto the bench. Harrison Graham has been promoted to the number 14 role. And Cody Hopwood drops to the reserves. No other changes for Holbrook. For the Raiders, Josh Papali'i back in. Massive in for the Canberra Raiders. Morgan Smithies drops back to the bench. Joe Roddy drops out. I actually think there'll be a late change. I haven't been too impressed with Morgan Smithies over the last couple of weeks. I think that he might get dropped potentially for Joe Roddy because I thought Joe Roddy was quite good. Matsumoko, he's been added to the 6-man bench alongside Chevy Stewart. I think there's a chance Tomoko comes back as well, depending on what they want to do with Sasangi. What's your thoughts on this one, Knights and Raiders?
Raiders have got their back against the wall. I think they can get the W. I think the Knights probably have the capabilities to win the game also. I just think the Raiders have that little bit more of a mentality where they're looking like they're not going too well, and I reckon Ricky will feed on that and the boys will come out and get the W against Newcastle.
Give me the upset again. I'm going to go Newcastle at home. I think they're going to get the job done there. And then the Tigers and the Eels, your Monday game. Love a good Monday game. Josh Papali'i, he is the new fullback. With Isaiah Yongi out for 8 to 10 weeks. Matt Dory's obviously done his ACL, so Charlie Geimer joins the bench. Jack DeBellin has been added to the 6-man bench, along with Appa Twindle, who is a young fullback 5'8", down in reserve grade. He's playing really good footy at the moment. For the West Tigers, Benji Marshall, same 17 for them. No changes from the side that got the W in Auckland. What's your thoughts, Eels or Tigers?
I can't go past the Tigers, mate. I think Parramatta missing Iongi at fullback is going to be a huge, huge loss for them. And I just see the Tigers looking too good. If they got the win last week against the Warriors over there, Benji's obviously got confidence in the 1 to 17, so they remain the same. And I think their bench is just looking so well balanced. They've got the two Fanau brothers there in 14 and 15, and then Hunt and Seibold, just two other big bodies that can come on and create that strong rotation, and they won't lose any momentum when the rest come through. So I've got the Tigers beating the Eels on Monday.
All right, there you go. That is another episode of Momentum. Again, apologies that it's a little bit later in the week, this one. Quick shout out to our good friends at Breathies and On Track Meals. You can use the code Momentum for both of those sites to get 10% off your orders. Breathies, we know how good it is for your training, for your recovery. Just gives you another leg up when it comes to recovery as well. And then On Track Meals, talk about recovery. If your nutrition's on point, you'll be flying as well. So make sure you get stuck into your On Track Meals. Both of those sites, code Momentum for 10% off. Jakey, been a pleasure, mate. I know that you've got to run, so we'll see you next week.
Thank you. See you, boys. Take it easy.